Welcome to Cybersecurity Awareness TV, episode number 431, recorded May 27th, 2023. My name is Mack Jackson Jr., your cybersecurity consultant and researcher. If this is the first time you have seen this show, Cybersecurity Awareness TV is dedicated to help you stay informed and protect you from today's digital world problems and issues. We discuss cybersecurity awareness, news, interviews, and tips that you can use to protect yourself, your family against the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. I would like to thank everyone who's supported our show and been a part of us here at Cybersecurity Awareness TV to help put this show together on the WWDBTV network and on Roku. If you'd like to find out more information about my company and what I do, you can go to my website at MackJacksonJr.com. That's MackJacksonJr.com. Remember, folks, we're on all social media, so when you find us out there, hit that subscribe button, share, like, and let everyone know about what you've learned on the show, Cybersecurity Awareness TV. In today's episode, we're talking about the evolving changes in the landscape regarding to cybersecurity and the major threats that are affecting our U.S. and our infrastructure. We'll also discuss our segment 2, FBI files, elderly scams that are affecting senior citizens, how hackers and bad guys are trying to convince elderly into giving over their personal identifiable information. And our third segment, as we do every week, we talk about what you can do to protect yourself, tips and techniques on protecting your business from these types of cyber threats. So in our first segment, folks, the evolving landscape of cybersecurity. Now, folks, on this show, I, as a cybersecurity professional in my industry, we are dedicated to providing information about how to protect ourselves and protect businesses from this fastest growing crime, which is cyber threats from around the world. Myself and others in this profession, we have observed a rise in cyber attacks within the United States, basically the ones that are supported by nation states such as China and the Chinese government. These attacks pose an increased risk of security that affects all of us. They mainly focus on the critical infrastructure around systems in our country and around the world, but they're not limited to the power grids and the pipelines. They also affect railways, power grids, water systems, and alike. These emerging cybersecurity landscape put our country and others at risk from cyber attacks. Recent intelligence findings suggested that there's been an increase in the number of cyber attacks coming from Chinese-sponsored cybersecurity hackers that are pledged to attack our vital infrastructure. These potential threats of this type of attacks can be devastating to our daily lifestyle, our commerce, and our nation's risk and security. Our job as cybersecurity professionals is to bring this information to you and be advocates of this, where we can work together in a collaboration between government and businesses to come together and make sure that we have the dynamic information that we can share amongst everyone to protect us from these types of cyber threats. I have a story I'd like to share with you coming from a overseas news agency about the cyber risk and cyber threats that has affected the United States and others from these types of hackers. This comes from ANC News out of the Philippines. Check this out.
China is capable of launching cyber attacks against critical infrastructure, including oil and gas pipelines and rail systems. The U.S. State Department issued that warning Thursday after researchers discovered a Chinese hacking group has been spying on such networks. Washington cybersecurity officials say they're now working to understand the breadth of potential intrusions and associated impacts. The Chinese government has rejected such assertions in the past, calling the warnings issued by the U.S. and its allies a collective disinformation campaign.
Now, folks, according to U.S. intelligence, the Chinese agency-sponsored hackers have launched a targeted cyber attack against the United States infrastructure, including strategic assets such as Guam as a part of other countries dealing with Taiwan overseas. These types of cyber campaigns and cyber attacks have made serious concern with our government officials about this type of attacks and how the preparedness that we as the United States are to combat these type of attacks. The cyber offense has sought to disrupt military communication channels and plan to respond to the event of the invasion of Thailand. According to the Taiwanese, geopolitical importance of the contest suggests that the United States and China are in a cyber war right now that can affect all kinds of military threats between us and the United States and the Chinese government. According to state officials of the United States, the nature of these types of cyber attacks are significant, that the Chinese-sponsored hackers have the potential to hack into American security systems. And this is something that we are definitely concerned with in our industry as cybersecurity professionals. Again, it is a collaboration between world leaders and cybersecurity experts from around the world to combat against these types of cyber threats. To continue this story, we'd like to take you to a news story that we found from CNBC News. Check this one out.
All right, welcome back and good morning. Microsoft out with a new warning. It says that Chinese state-sponsored hackers compromise critical U.S. cyber infrastructure across numerous industries with a focus on gathering intelligence. The National Security Administration issued a bulletin detailing how the hack works and how cybersecurity teams should respond. The attack is apparently still ongoing. The infiltration is focused on communication infrastructure in Guam and other parts of the U.S. That was particularly alarming to U.S. intelligence services because Guam would be at the heart of an American military response in the case of an invasion of Taiwan. It's where a large part, Becky, of our B-1 bomber bases or bombers are based.
Yeah, and look, if Microsoft has picked this up, if we know this is out there, couple that with the weather balloons, spy balloons, satellites that they had sent over, and look, there's a lot of things that are happening. It's hard to know exactly how to connect the dots, but there is something here and something big.
There are dots. I mean, and this is, by the way, folks, this is not some tinfoil. This is the U.S. government and Microsoft saying Chinese state-sponsored hackers have hacked critical infrastructure, including parts of Guam, where a U.S. military base is in a first response. Seems like kind of a big story.
And folks, Microsoft have also disclosed a significant risk of cyber attacks that have affected the United States based upon nation states such as North Korea and China, affecting the infrastructure of our homeland. The giant tech Microsoft also suggested that these cyber attacks have been advanced threats intelligence that have come in from China, from the Chinese hackers. This announcement also sent shockwaves internationally amongst everyone in the industry to communicate and work together with a collaboration between governmental entities as well as businesses in thwarting these types of cyber attacks. Western governments have called this international collaboration efforts to counter these types of cyber attacks. It underscores the importance of strengthening cybersecurity awareness frameworks and share intelligence amongst nation states, especially from the West, in order to combat these type of cyber threats. To continue this, I have another story I'd like to share with you coming from the Script News. Check this story out, folks.
Critical online spaces in the U.S. jeopardized this morning by Chinese hackers. Microsoft reports a state-run group is threatening critical parts of the country's cyber infrastructure. Early analysis indicates their goal is espionage. Many fear these attacks could turn into a global threat, with the government already warning they pose a growing risk to Americans' intellectual property.
Political correspondent Kevin Cirilli reports on this situation and, of course, the potential consequences that could stem from this. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning. There are 3 U.S. military bases on Guam, which is in a strategic part of the Indo-Pacific, should the Chinese Communist Party look to attack Taiwan or provide some type of blockade through Taiwan. So the general thinking this morning is that the Chinese hackers tried to disrupt communications from the U.S. and its Five Eyes allies, including in the Five Eyes Agreement partnership, the UK, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. So this is a strategic military base, and the strategic disruption from communications could have severe concerns in terms of the ability of the United States military to communicate with its allies in that region at a time in which China is increasingly going aggressive in Taiwan. Let's pull up specifically what the Chinese espionage tried to do in the Volt Typhoon, as it's known. They tried to infect critical U.S. cyber infrastructure, laying the groundwork to hurt communications between the U.S. and Asia, and again, those Five Eyes partners. Tactics are making it intrusion hard to detect. So they've been very, the Chinese have had strength in terms of how they have tried to shield the way that they've done this. And this has been going on since mid-2001. Let's pull up a statement now from Jen Easterly, the director of the cybersecurity branch of the U.S. government, who says, quote, "For years, China has conducted aggressive cyber operations to steal intellectual property and sensitive data from organizations around the globe." There's another part of this story that's crucial, and that is the public-private partnership element of the U.S. government, as well as its ability to work with companies like Microsoft. Microsoft also out with a statement today talking about the disruption that the Chinese espionage did in fact conduct. So the ability for the U.S. government to work with prominent U.S. tech companies like Microsoft is also at the forefront of this at a time in which there is growing geopolitical risk because of the Chinese Communist Party's continued actions insinuating that they are going to cause some type of disruption against Taiwan.
Kevin Cirilli in D.C. for us this morning. Thank you, Kevin. All right, let's get to Jamil Jaffer, the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute at the George Mason University's Law School. He's also a venture partner at the Paladin Capital Group. He joins us live now to discuss the security that, Jamil, always good to see you. So first, the spy balloon, now this. How concerned should the U.S. be about Chinese surveillance and the severity of this data breach?
Well, you know, Alex, obviously this is a significant threat. The Chinese have long been targeting U.S. infrastructure, trying to get access to our critical infrastructure to, one, collect intelligence, but also in the long run to potentially take action if there is a scenario where they choose to do so. You can imagine they've gone after now critical infrastructure in Guam and the like. That's obviously critical if there's a Taiwan contingency for them to deploy not just collection capabilities, Alex, but potential malware that can destroy data, destroy systems, and make it hard for the U.S. to operate in that theater.
Talk a little bit more about that, with Guam being the center of this, but it's really all about Taiwan, or it seems.
That's exactly right, Jay. You know, the Chinese have been indicating a number of threats towards Taiwan. We've seen significant numbers of Chinese fighter jets and bombers breaching the air defense identification zone, crossing the center line of the Taiwan Strait. And so we know that there's a clear and present threat to Taiwan, and Guam is a key operations base for the United States. So when the Chinese target, even as we've seen now for potential just collection of intelligence, we know that that same capability that allows intelligence collection is the same capability that allows the deployment of malware that can take down computer systems and make it very hard for the U.S. to conduct military and other operations in the region.
So for our viewers who may not be read in on our Chinese relations, explain to them and walk them through big picture why they should care about something like this, a data breach that could potentially have a wide ripple effect.
Sure. Well, you know what's interesting, Alex, about this particular hack is that the Chinese have come in through a variety of new methods. They've been looking at small and home office routers, which is the kind of thing that a lot of us have in our homes. Right. In addition, they've been exploiting the Microsoft infrastructure. So the Microsoft Active Directory system, the way that Microsoft logs people in, has been exploited by the Chinese in this way to get long-term access. They're able to create their own user accounts and hide inside the systems the same way the Russians did in the SolarWinds hack. That makes it very dangerous because it's hard to get them out once they're in that way. And so what people need to know is as they see this alert coming out from the NSA, from CISA, from our global partners, as well as Microsoft, they need to take action now to get ahead of this. And that's why it's so important, Alex and Jay, for companies to invest in cybersecurity software, get ahead of this, and partner with the U.S. government and their allied governments to make sure they're defending themselves adequately.
And really quick, Jamil, I mean, this may be a silly question. I don't really know too much about hacking, but is there a way to know that there is another user inside of your account?
That's a great question, Alex. In fact, what the government has disclosed today are ways of identifying whether these folks have been in your accounts. They show the actual kind of commands that they use. They show the kind of files they create, the kind of things they're looking for. They're trying to get access to information about your passwords and your user accounts so they can create their own. And so if you have an active system today, you can go look, do I have these vulnerabilities? And do I see this kind of activity in my logs? Now, not everybody turns their log files on, so that's another thing that the government's recommending you do to prevent these kind of attacks, or at least find them.
Wow. Any evidence you use the word access. Is there any evidence that they are messing or stealing personal information of Americans?
Well, there's no question, Jay, that in this case, the Chinese have absolutely been taking information that is on those systems. Whether it's personal information about American individuals or not, we don't know. But we know they're collecting mass amounts of intelligence. But the other challenge here is it's not just intelligence collection, because you can also deploy capabilities that we haven't seen them do it yet. But we know this same capability that gives you access to get information allows you to deploy the kind of things that can collect keystrokes, collect passwords, and delete or modify data. And that's the really scary part, Jay and Alex.
This is a thorny relationship between the U.S. and China on so many fronts. Taiwan, but they rely on each other for trade so much. So if you're the U.S. government, how do you respond to something like this?
Well, there's a few things you could do. One, get the information out, allow people to help defend themselves, partner closely with private sector companies to help ensure that they're defending themselves and that people and that companies are buying the right kind of capabilities to protect themselves. But on top of that, you've got to deter this kind of behavior. You want to push back and let the Chinese know, hey, we know you're in there and we're going to hit you back if you use any malware against us. We haven't done a great job deterring in the cyber domain. We need to give the NSA and Cyber Command more authority to take that kind of action when they need to prevent these kind of cyber hacks.
So what's the next step? I mean, staying ahead of a hacker, ahead of a criminal is always a hard thing to do, especially as technology just gets smarter and smarter and smarter. There's always somebody a few steps ahead of you. So what is the next move for the U.S.?
It's a great and important question, Alex. So, we spent a lot of time thinking about how to invest in companies that can do good cybersecurity. That's what companies who have information and data they need to protect need to do as well. They need to identify best-in-breed security solutions and spend the money and time and effort it takes to install those and keep them updated. So, and for individual users, they want to do the same thing. Buy that security system, make sure you're using strong passwords and the like, and to the extent you can, lock down your email accounts and make sure you're not sharing sensitive data through your email accounts.
Or don't use the same password for every
Well, that's
single
just true. Yeah, and don't make it password 1, 2, 3.
Exactly.
And Jay, I have a lot
That's
of imagination
exactly right.
for my passwords, okay? Jamil Jaffer, always good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Alex.
Like we showed, folks, the hacking attempts believed to be state-sponsored are not limited to U.S. infrastructures. Western governments, including our allies in Europe, Asian Pacific region, as well as other countries around the world, that is, are exposed to these types of cyber threats. So we must work together to help combat these types of threats. Folks, hackers are always looking for ways to find out how to get your information and try to exploit yourself and your business. You can protect yourself from this by becoming more cyber aware and cyber woke, folks. As we say in the show, hashtag stay cyber woke. We'll be back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Judy Mario. I invite you to watch my show, What's Your Story with Judy Mario on WWDBTV, where I interview celebrities, doctors, authors, professional speakers, and just plain folks like you and me. So watch my show and also watch some of the other great shows that we have here on WWDBTV, and you can also find us on Roku.
Hi everybody, Aaron Phillips here, inviting you to join me every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. right here on Worldwide Digital Broadcasting TV on my show, Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips. I bring to you the movers and shakers of Las Vegas and really all around the world. It's also fun, entertaining, silly, goofy, informative, everything you'd want to be entertained by on a Saturday, except no politics, no religion. As I said, it's designed to be a fun show. Remember, that's every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific, right here, Aaron's Hour, Worldwide Digital Broadcasting TV.
Folks, according to law enforcement agencies, cybersecurity experts urge family members to educate, that's right, educate folks, their parents and their grandparents on these types of scams and what to do. Talk to your local churches, other senior citizen centers, and educate the population on what these type of hackers are doing, because folks, they're doing the reverse. They are educating their criminals on how to attack the morals of good people, good-hearted people that trust in technology. We must make sure that we continue training. And again, folks, this is not a one-off. I keep mentioning this all the time and will continue saying this, folks. A cybersecurity incident, it's not a one-time attack. it is a campaign. If they will hit you once and they fail at it, they'll come back again or sell your information to someone else on the dark net that will in turn try to hack you again and to attack you or attack one of your family members. So you must continue educating your family on these types of cyber attacks. Again, folks, the FBI warns on these types of cyber attacks that are happening. Another type that's going on involves voice scams. In the development of cyber crimes using AI, as we are also told that AI is now plagiarism, this AI type of attacks uses the voice, and yes, plagiarize on the individual's voice to have the computer mimic a loved one's voice online to convince an elderly person that they are in distress. These types of attacks are creating a shockwave around the world that technology is used this way for evil than for good. This mimicking game of using somebody's voice may sound great as far as productivity and create creativity, but people are using this technology for evil. I have another story to share with you folks that demonstrates how this is being used and what you could do to protect your family from these types of threats. This story comes to us from Utah, Fox 13 News. Check the story out.
Scammers are getting smarter with ways to try and trick you. The FBI warns that criminals are cloning your loved ones' voices to call and demand money.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser sat down with older adults to talk about AI and these latest scams. She shows us just how common this technology is becoming.
Since the dawn of the phone.
When I was growing up, it was the dial telephone. And before that, it was the old crank telephone.
It's an all too common trick.
I had an individual say, oh, we got your son down there in Mexico, and would you pay so much money to get him out?
Scams where tricksters fake a dire situation and call a loved one asking for money.
I would never trust them. I would never trust anybody that does something like that.
But scammers are getting smarter. Just this month, Utahns are getting calls where their sounds played in the background, making a pretend injury sound believable.
There's a person in the background screaming, crying, hyperventilating. He thought it was me. They knew our names. They were calling me by my name and by his name.
Taylorsville police have heard about scams from other local departments where even real recordings are part of the scheme.
The people did think that their child was with the kidnappers because they had some kind of audio from a video or something like that.
Oh, 69. Older Utahns have been taught to be on their guard for such calls.
I read these articles about it and I can kind of keep an eye on it.
But the FBI warns we're entering a new era where AI is used for this very thing.
There's no sort of turning back the clock on this. Now that the technology is out there, even if you pass laws, it's not very easy for, to actually rein this in.
Jason Weiss is an assistant professor at the School of Computing at the University of Utah. This year, social media saw an AI boom. The latest tech is even stumping Gen Zers who are supposed to be pros at this stuff, getting tricked by fake photos of the Pope in a puffer or Selena Gomez at this year's Met Gala that she didn't even attend.
In my field, this is we've seen this coming for a long time, that this was going to happen. It was going to hit and have a significant impact.
They're called deepfakes, an image or recording convincingly altered and manipulated to misrepresent someone as doing or saying something that was not actually done or said. Like a modern-day Ursula, scammers are stealing people's voices and calling vulnerable older relatives for money.
It's just creepy. Gives me the creeps.
I'm going to show you just how eerily easy it is. I downloaded an AI app and just recorded my voice reading a report here at Fox 13. Before I add my voice, it does send a message to use the app ethically and not in any way that can harm others. Now I'm going to type a script as if I'm a scammer trying to trick my grandma.
Hey Grandma, this is Emily. I need some help.
And again, I never recorded myself saying that. It's all AI mimicking my voice. The only tell is that it's a little robotic.
Even if there's a tell today, it may not be something that exists tomorrow as the technology sort of continues to improve.
The Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services is constantly educating older Utahns on what to watch out for.
The best thing to do is to hang up the phone
and then call that loved one back from your own cell phone on their saved contact information.
So if you post videos on public social media accounts, be aware that someone could use that audio to trick your loved ones.
They are, again, often the targets of these types of scams, and it's really important that we protect them.
There's so much evil that's creeping into our society. You have to be so careful about what you're doing anymore.
Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Folks, in a response to these types of cyber threats, cybersecurity firms and companies like myself, again, urge the public to make sure you use multi-factor authentication, education, training, letting the elderly know, and also talking to your family members as well. Maybe having an emergency word or contact. So if this ever happens where you get trapped in one of these sort of virtual kidnappings, that you could be able to identify your loved one and knowing that it is legitimate on the other side, or if it's not fake. As we always say, folks, we must stay vigilant. We must stay alert in what's going on in the world of cybersecurity and technology, because these hackers will never give up. They will continue their training and education themselves on our weaknesses and vulnerabilities. We must stay alert, folks, and stay cyber woke. Hashtag stay cyber woke. Folks, this is Mack Jackson, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hello, folks. This is Mack Jackson Jr. from Vanderson Cyber Group. The problem with businesses today is that they are affected by cyber attacks from around the world, but companies are not sure of what to do. Normally, they are reactive instead of proactive. But folks, cyber attacks can affect your bottom line, and it will affect you financially, legally, and your business reputation. Here at Vanderson Cyber Group, we can help you develop a policy by training your employees on what to do if they are involved in a cyber attack, and how to mitigate it and fight against it. Folks, we call it here hashtag stay cyber woke. And that's Vanderson Cyber Group here in Las Vegas and around the world. You can reach me, folks, at vandersoncybergroup.com or my website, mackjacksonjr.com as well. Here locally, 702-868-0808. Give us a call today, folks. We must fight back. Hi folks, this is Mack Jackson, and welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. In this segment, we're talking about business productivity and tips that you can do to protect yourself from cyber attacks. Now folks, every week, as we always do, we talk about what is the primary thing that you can do today to protect your data information. Well, one of them is to make sure you change your password, have an updated password, and use a password manager. But folks, there's a new one I have to share with you today. If you go to my website, mackjacksonjr.com, and look at my blog, I have a blog that I posted an article, a white paper that's all throughout the internet this week, and it has to do with data brokers. What are data brokers? Well, data brokers are companies, advertising agencies that have information about you and your family stored online. Information about you, from your demographics, your age, your name, your height, the things that you're into, where you were born, your social security number, birth date. All of this is personal identifiable information about you. But folks, there are laws that are out there that have been on the books now for at least 7 years. Did you know that? There are at least 7 years on the books that states that you have the opportunity and the right to have all this information removed from all of these data brokers' databases across the world. And the data brokers must do this and prove to you that they've done it. Now, it is simple and easy to do. And it's an ongoing campaign, so it's not like one and done. You have to continuously do this, folks, because there's information about you that will be brought up on these databases all the time. If you'd like to find out how to do that, definitely contact me, or better yet, look at my article that I've written on my website at mackjacksonjr.com. Go to my blog and look at my article on data brokers. You'll find out how to remove information about you and your family from the internet, where you can have a little bit more of your privacy under your control versus having it sold. And the hashtag for this is very simple, and it is hashtag if it is free online, then you are the product, folks. Nothing's free under the sun. Nothing is free. So, folks, that's what we have for you this week. Again, if you want to find out more about my company and what we could do for your business, like help your employees understand their responsibility, roles, responsibility when it comes to cybersecurity awareness, my company, the name is Vanderson Cyber Group, where we will help you develop policies and procedures for your company and train your employees on what to do, what to expect from cyber thieves. You can find my company at vandersoncybergroup.com. That's vandersoncybergroup.com, folks. And as far as myself, I'm a speaker as well. I come to your organization and do corporate speaking events regarding cybersecurity. I do keynote addresses to your organization as well. You can find information about me and my agent at mackjacksonjr.com. That's mackjacksonjr.com. That's all we have for you folks this week. Stay tuned. Stay #cyberwoke. We'll see you next week. Thank you, folks.